Hey, good afternoon. It's Max McAllister from Traction Dynamics again with another video, believe it or not, in kind of ongoing drama with tie rod ends. Hopefully, I think we've probably, learned all that we can figure out at this point. So some new things have happened. I did get a chance to see an electronic version of the Honda service manual and verify that there is a specification for handlebar in play on the 2018 GL 1800 Goldwing. And the way that specification is determined is here on the front of the motorcycle. There's two bores, one in the steering head, we'll call it itself, and one in the fork itself. And Honda has a special tool that's a precision ground pin that you drop down into the bore, and it if you can back up, you can see the steering is now locked. The bike can't move. In fact, you can see this. I'm moving the wheel. It doesn't move. Now, this is not Honda's special tool because, well, we have a machine shop here and I don't need to buy one, so we just made one. So for anyone who has access, this dimension is 237 thousandths of an inch. We did a 236. It still had a teeny weeny little click to it. 237 fits very, very, very tight. And due to just the actual slack in these bearings, microscopically, let's call it, not microscopic in the word, but the tiny amount of slop there is in the bearings, you may have a helper if you do one precision at 237, drop it in. So kind of what you'd have to do is put the bike on its center stand, and just while someone's inserting the pin in its bore, you can rock it up and bounce the bike a little bit on the front tire, and that'll help the pin drop right into its bore. Now, truthfully, if you have one made at 236 and it has a thousandth of an inch of slop of mechanical space, a thousandth of an inch is 1/4 of the thickness of a sheet of notebook paper. That's pretty close. So 236 is probably safe. We just happen to have access to make it exactly right. So this one is absolutely rigidly locked. 236, a microscopic tiny click might be possible. But for what we're trying to measure, it's not going to matter. So now the steering is fully mechanically locked. And what we're going to now look for is movement. And this is all in the right-hand tie rod. Remember, the left-hand tie rod floats effectively kind of loose on the bike, and it's only there in case the right-hand tie rod ever catastrophically broken, failed, and it's there to help you control the bike to a stop. So what's controlling the bike is the right-hand tie rod. So you can see these handlebars move here, and of course we haven't pulled the pin out of the wheel, so the wheel is steady as a rock. Here's the bar. So this is our bike, our shop bike, and so we've come up with a way that Honda just shows a picture with a couple of arrows like this that simulates moving the arm, and the specification says that if there, you can kind of pin up to me for a second. So the specification says if there's 5 millimeters of movement, it says replace the tie rod. So truthfully, that's not necessary. You would just buy the tie rod ends. They're threaded opposite, one standard, one reverse. You would buy tie rod ends. And truthfully, if your bike's under warranty, I would not consider this at all to be a wear item. This is a problem. So at this bike, we'll show you in a second, has about 3 millimeters of movement. It's there. It's noticeable. It's not bad. I wouldn't jump up and down about this. But it's close to 3 millimeters. The blue bike we've seen in the videos, that was really quite bad. That one exceeded 5. That thing was defective, and truthfully, we're not so at this point not sure why, and I'll explain that in a second. But so how we've come up with a simple way of measuring this. We're just using a point on the mirror and putting a metric tape measure there, and extend your hand out past there, Stan. So you might need a wife or somebody to help do this, or a friend. So you can kind of see the tape measure. This that mark is right on the large mark for the 1 there. So now I'm just going to move this back and forth, and all we're doing is looking for where's the boundaries of the mechanical slop. So you can kind of see there's 3 millimeters on this bike. And so like I said, this is there. You can feel it. It's not distracting on this bike at that spec. At 5, it's extremely distracting. Anyone in the world can notice it. It's not cool. Now, to add to the the interest of this, the Blue DCT, we contacted the guy who owns the bike after I figured out the tie rods were the same on both sides of the bike, and I said, hey man, just move the tie rod. So he took the right tie rod off his bike, put the left tie rod on the right. Bike is perfect, no slop at all. And then today we had another bike here, another 6-speed, and that bike was that bike had almost no detectable slop. It would have been 1 millimeter or less, almost nothing. So that bike was perfect, and it had 3,000 miles on it. This bike has 3 millimeters on it. It's got 75 miles maybe. I'd have to look, but it's not even 100 miles. The Blue DCT that was really bad had 375 miles on it. So I don't think this is wear related. I think this is tolerance built into the ball joint in the parts that Honda's selling. Now, how did the guy with the blue bike get such a bad setup? Well, all parts have tolerance, and he just happened to have, from what I can speculate, is 2 tie rod ends that had the tolerance limit of slack in them. When you put them together, you get a huge amount. So arguably, if I wanted to take the time, I could probably rotate tie rod ends around on my bike and arrive at one that had less slack than this, if I wanted to take that time and do that. So we're gonna watch over time, and we're obviously gonna have a ton of Goldwings coming through here, and we're just gonna kind of start a running chart to keep an average for everybody. But I would suspect that this is something, if you notice it, you should complain to your dealer right away, and hope if for Honda to come up with a cure for this should not be a big deal, and it is no big labor thing for a bike shop to swap the tie rod or replace it with an updated part or whatever. So I would encourage Goldwing owners, if their bike has this slop, to report it and complain about it. Your dealership, unless they order this little special tool, I don't know that they're likely to have one. Hopefully they'll get one, unless it's on like an automatic release. But anyway, it's chapter 3, page 24 in the Honda service manual. If you're a service shop, if you want to tell them where to look to get the part number for the special tool, and see the specification that we're talking about. So so that is the deal with the tie rods at this point. All we know. What we don't know is, obviously, we need to see some bikes with 50,000 miles on them and see what happens. But again, I don't expect Honda Goldwing owners to be tolerant of a bike that has a rattle in the steering, and would expect, hopefully Honda will do something to make that right. And feel free to contact me. I'd love to know if you guys do something like this and measure this. My email is max@traction.com, and let me know if you find this kind of mechanical stuff, because I'm just trying to collect some data and keep it organized at this point, or get some running totals so we can figure out. And then I'd like to know if Honda replaces your tie rods and your bike's improved and it's warranted and it doesn't cost you anything. If that's the case, that'll be great. But from what it appears, everything up to 4 millimeters of slack, Honda's going to tell you your bike is fine. We're not going to fix it. So that is going to be up to you to see where you carry that. So thanks for watching this one. Hopefully this winds up the tie rods, and I got a couple more videos coming here later today, so we'll get those done. Thanks.